with an absolutely legendary, breathtaking 300 elo chess battle between Witzel from Brazil, who has a profile photo of a very cute dog, and Alex from Germany, who also has a profile of a very cute German Shepherd. Except German Shepherds are not very cute, they're kind of terrifying. I was bitten by one when I was 11. The game begins with e4, and black responds with a knight to the center of the board. Already, as far as I'm concerned, for beginners, just a pure inaccuracy. Like, you really should be putting one or both pawns in the center early. There is no reason to try to reinvent the wheel. White plays knight c3, either copying black or playing the Vienna. We don't know, right? We don't know what white is actually doing. White is rated 296. I'm not sure white knows what white is doing. And black plays knight f6. So again, I don't like when beginners put knights in the center, but not their pawns, because 2 pawns in the center will always beat 2 knights. And just generally as a beginner, if you can put 2 pawns in the center in the first few moves, you should try to do that, all right? Just a good rule of thumb. But okay, white plays d3, which is a baby version of the move d4, and it blocks in the bishop. But, you know, it's not a bad move. It's not like a horrible move, and black copies, pawn to d6. And now white plays bishop f4, which is kind of like an Ooga London, is what I would call this. It's like a king's pawn London. I've really never seen something like this before. I don't know. I mean, generally, the pawn is on d4 and then the bishop is on f4. This is definitely kind of weird. And black immediately puts a pawn on e5 and attacks the bishop. So another good rule of thumb, do not move your bishops into the center of the board if they can be attacked by enemy pawns in a way that does not weaken the opponent's position. So essentially, if your opponent can play a very natural, good, developing move and attack your bishop, forcing it to move again, don't put your bishop there. It's a total waste of time. White could have just gone bishop e3, e5, and it would have been white's move. Instead, this is this position, but it's black's move, so black gets extra time, and we do not like that. Black plays bishop g4. As always, you can develop a bishop, you can attack a queen, it's probably a good move. And now, white has a pleasant choice. So white could move the queen, white could block with the bishop, white could block with the knight, white could block with the knight, white could block with the pawn. White chooses to play bishop e2, which is a perfectly reasonable move, and now the bishops are traded. And I really like that in this position, white continues developing. Doesn't take with the king, doesn't take with the queen, although taking with the queen is completely fine. Now, what should black do? Either play queen d7 and castle long, or play bishop e7 and castle short. Or, as a very, very, very last resort, you can now change your plan and try to put 2 pawns in the center, because in this case, you actually can do that. I also don't hate black's next move, which is knight to g4. Again, you really shouldn't try to move the pieces that you've already developed a lot, because you're going to run out of pieces and then you're going to fall behind in development. But knight g4 is not a bad move. You know what? For 300, I really don't hate this move. White plays h3 and black just grabs the bishop. Okay. And again, black should play bishop e7 in castle, or queen e7 or whatever in castle. The thing about this move is it looks really good, but it's not as good as it looks. You know, the incredible thing is, you play a move like this, and okay, white blocks, right? But let's say white plays king d2. The king is actually shockingly safe. This is a really powerful bunker of pawns, and black does not have a way in. If you play f5, that's just a free pawn. I'm not afraid. And what funny thing happens here is, you know, we have g3 kicking out the queen, and now obviously this pawn was just used to block against the queen check. It's a very scary situation, right? You don't want to move the pawn again, because if you move the pawn again, queen's going to come back. So you can't castle now because this is weak, but you can go queen d2 and or you can maybe move the knight and try to trade the queens. What you definitely don't want to do is exactly what happens in the game, g4, queen h4, and now you learn the hard way that pawns cannot go backwards, so you have to play king d2. I mean, you don't have to play king d2, but it's actually better to play king d2 than play king f1, because your king is wide open, and black can already start opening up the position. And it can go from bad to worse here. Like, black can play rook h6, and then rook f6, and all of a sudden, I mean, there's a very, very powerful attack brewing. So king to d2. All right, this is kind of our first fascinating development of the game. White just has a king in the center of the board, and we're just going to act like it's okay. But the position is very closed. How do you determine a position is very closed in chess? You look at the pawns. Both sides have 8 pawns. So the only opening for white is the f-file. Everything else is kind of deadlocked, and then you got to start looking at the pawn breaks, right? where can a side make a pawn trade to open up the position? Black plays bishop e7. Again, this is so far so good. I gotta say, like, I was making fun of the 300 elos. These two are playing very well, okay? And knight to d5, long castle. Now, either black got super lucky here, or completely remembered that the knight is defending, and so on. And now white plays knight ec3. So white transferring the horses this way. At some point, white will need to move the queen and bring the rooks. Because right now, we've played about 15 moves, and you're not using any of your heaviest artillery, okay? So black plays the best move, the top engine move, bishop g5. Top engine move, putting pressure on the pawn in front of the king. And in close position, sometimes brilliancies like this happen. 300s are able to find by accident the best plans because you can't move anything. So they just try to move what they can. I mean, for example, they click the bishop. I don't have this setting on, but many of you do. Many of you play like this in general. Many of you play like this, where you touch a piece, the highlighted squares appear, and then, you play bishop g5. So bishop g5. Now white plays knight b5. Okay, so the knights are teaming up. We sort of see the justification of the last idea. 1 knight move, 2 knight move, 3 knight move. Tunnel vision, but not the worst kind. Queen to g3. Black is infiltrating and responding, but I got news for you. There is actually no threat because the knight is defending, and white gobbles a pawn on c7. I mean, this is spectacular stuff, I have to tell you. Really, really impressive. Now, black completely malfunctions. Black realizes that this plan does not work, so they're going to play h5. And white just takes. And white just takes because you cannot play rook h5 because it's a full loss of a rook. So black plays h5 and then realizes, I mean, the fact that black even realized that this was defended from that far away is kind of a miracle. I don't even know what to say. Then black plays f5. And white could have taken this too. White could have just won 3 pawns. And the only reason the position is not even that much winning is because of knight d4, which is just a really weird move. It's pinned, so you can't take. It gets the knight closer. But nobody's going to play knight d4, otherwise white is completely winning. So black completely malfunctions. Black loses 1 pawn, 2 pawns, 3 pawns. 3 moves in a row, 1 pawn lost on each move. This is typical 300 elo stuff. Like you play 15 great moves, and then you play 3 completely horrible moves, and you play 15 really more horrible moves. But you know what's incredible? White in this position does not even take. White realizes the pawn is no longer covering that square. Look at this. Look at this. This is incredible. Now, black, either by accident or by genius, realizes I don't need to guard this. I need to attack the king. F takes e4 is a genius move. It's a genius move because you need to create some sort of attack. Otherwise, you're busted up. The computer here really wants white to trade queens, but white, of course, takes the rook because that was the entire reason that they went there. Now, black takes with the rook, and white plays queen e2. Just a nice little subtle improvement guarding the king. White has a better move, though, here, and this is just a mini... This is a little lesson for some of you chess noobs. Take a look. In this position, white is completely winning. One way to secure a victory in chess is simplification. Simplification. And here you can force a queen trade. How? You can force a queen trade by looking for checks. The most forcing move in chess is a check. Queen g4 just so happens to be a check and a hit on the queen, and it's defended. So you would trade the queens and be a major step closer to winning this game. Plus, by removing the queen from the board, your opponent can now never attack you. Your king is completely safe. The king is kind of scared of a queen. He's a bit of a beta. So, queen to e2. Rook f8. Now d takes e4. And ladies and gentlemen, let the fun begin. This is a 300 elo game. We have had way too much of a normal intro. It's been way too normal. We're overdue for our memes. I'm looking at my watch. The memes are overdue. So black plays rook f8. And by the way, this is the punishment that white has for leaving the queen on the board. The queen is the bully, right? The queen is bullying everybody. Look at the most forcing moves. You have checks, but you can also use your advantage. Another mini lesson in this video. A lot of you chess noobs don't use your advantage. What does that mean? What is white up? White is up a rook for a bishop. White is up a rook. You're not using the rooks. They're just standing around. All right, it's like buying a really fancy piece of furniture and just leaving it in the package. You gotta unpackage it, right? You gotta use the rook. Otherwise, what are you doing? All right? So, he takes c4 played in the game, and now rook to f2. And white is in trouble. White is in trouble because white is going to lose the most powerful piece. After losing the most powerful piece, white is then going to have a king in the center. You see, if the king was going to be tucked away over here, maybe I wouldn't be so concerned. But the problem is the king is going to be stuck in the center of the board, which is why you should probably go here and try to do something like this and evacuate the king. That is probably what you should do. But if the opponent is sharp, they're going to hunt down all your pawns and remove your defenses. White fights back with rook ag1. Finally, just a move too late. Now here, black does something that I completely don't understand. Okay, I completely don't understand. Black just played rook f2, which threatens a queen. Now black completely panics and realizes their queen is hanging. And instead of taking with check and just moving the queen to safety, which maybe they missed, black decides, well, my queen is hanging, so I might as well lose my... What? Why would you do that? I don't even... What? Well, black's idea was to escape with the queen. So black is going to escape with the queen by giving up the bishop. The incredible thing about this move is it loses to king d3, which is so ridiculous. The point is, this is no longer a check. So you take the queen. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, no one on the planet is fighting this, and the point is there is no discovered check because you win the queen. So bishop e3 accidentally walks white into a victory, but instead we have the following position. Now this position is equal. It's equal according to the computer. It is the farthest thing from equal when two 300s are playing. It's probably not even equal at grandmaster level. It's very complicated. The eternal question of would you rather have a queen or two rooks? It depends on the position. Rook takes g7. Queen takes h5, check. And the king again should be hiding over here. King is beta. King is afraid of the queen, let alone the enemy queen. So the king should hide. White should try to push the pawn, and white has two rooks. So pinning an enemy king on the back rank is absolutely not out of the question. So the king absolutely should not go forward. It does go forward. And folks, I told you the memes were going to be very, very hot and heavy in this game. This was a very intense game. Knight to b4 check. Black delivering a check with the knight because the king has just arrived. But suddenly king c3. And there is a major, major problem here. The problem is that the knight is hanging and it cannot go here because it actually just gets trapped. So king c3, I don't really know why black did not go backwards. Maybe black was afraid of rook f1 and rook f8. So instead of that, black tries to play the ultra sneaky queen h6. Queen h6 is a fork. And you can't take the knight because your rook is hanging. I don't even know what the best move here is. White plays rook to g1, which is not a great move, but it's a move. And now we have queen e3 check, king to b4. The white king, bold and courageous and brave. Probably crapping his jocks though. And now rook can slide over and rook to g8 is mate. I mean, both kings are on the absolute verge of perish. Queen to d4 check. Of course, it would have been better to take a pawn with check. I don't really know why that doesn't happen. And now king to b3. And our second big meme delivery with overnight international shipping. Queen to d5 check. Black played queen to d5 check in no less than 1 second. Black had way more than that on the clock. Queen to d5 check on the board. Pawn takes d5, ends the game. King to c3. Spectacular stuff, back to equality. Now, the game is probably a draw, but this king could escape out this way. For example, queen c5, and maybe we have a6, rook f7, and the king could potentially escape. Now, it really can't escape, but that's neither here nor there. Black plays b5. The move b5 actually threatens checkmate, believe it or not. It threatens queen c4, king a3, queen a4 mate. The white king needs to escape. White gives a check. I don't love that move because now the king is going to run. You don't always have to give checks. In particular, when you are restricting a king's movement as you are now, when you give a check, you might relinquish that control and the king will run up to a6 and be completely fine. So, rook check, king b7, rook g7 check, king a6 completely avoids checks, and black is going to probably win the game. Instead, the king has a choice of 3 moves. One is amazing, one is okay, one is bozo level, and black chooses bozo level, giving the queen a hug from behind and rook c8 check, and that is that. And our battle has concluded. White picks up the queen and now will simply win the pawns and make another queen. Okay, or play rook g2. I don't really know what that does. King to d4 played by black, attacking the pawn on e4. White can just gobble everything, but be careful about stalemating. Okay, white chooses to play defense. Pawn to d5, I would just take that. But okay, h4 takes, h5. White is lucky. Black cannot do anything. Absolutely nothing. There is nothing that black can do. Nothing, literally. You can push my pawn, doesn't matter. Rook e4, none of it matters. The white king is always safe. Now we have h6, h7, h8. And seasoned veterans of watching my content obviously are watching at this point going, Levy, you're not slick. We know that white doesn't win this game. And look, I would say looks can be deceiving. Just because you know sometimes I did something in the past doesn't mean I'm going to do something in the future. All right, there's not going to be, maybe there isn't a stalemate. Maybe white just wins this game, right? It's how to lose at chess. Sure, plot twists happen, but then maybe a plot twist happens within a plot twist. It's an absolutely fascinating thing. Are you ready to see how this game concludes? Because I'm really not sure you are. Pawn to h6. Pawn to b4. Pawn to h7. Pawn to a5. Pawn to h8. King to b5. Oh, are you seeing this? Oh, wait a minute. Queen e8 check. King c... Okay, well. Now you just take all the pawns. Yeah, wow. It's just no plot twists. Take this pawn, take those pawns. Okay, fine. Queen d4 check. King to b5. Yeah, again, you give a check, give a check, give a check. Ladder mate very quickly. And you're probably like, all right, Levy, well, show the plot twist now. Yes, you caught me. You caught me. This game, white didn't win this game. White with an absolutely overwhelming amount of material, potential to have 4 queens and a rook on the board, and quite enough time to deliver a ladder checkmate. Not only didn't win this game, white got checkmated by a pawn.